well-being section of HybriCON 2022, and it's incredibly good timing. Why? Well, it's about 6 to 8 weeks till the end of the year, whether you're working in South Africa, definitely 6 weeks for us South Africans, but maybe 8 weeks for the Americans. We've really got to have a look at ways in which we can thrive and boost our resilience until the end of the year. This is what I am seeing mainly in the corporate space where I work. I see a lot of smiley faces, which is fantastic, but deflated balls. So people are feeling, but they're putting on a brave face and they're trying to grit their way through. And I hear this languaging, we're nearly there. It's nearly at the end of the year. Can't wait for the holidays. It's just kind of eroding the last month or 2 months of the year. Let's rather flip that on its head. Let's rather find ways to kind of reboot this little organ between your ears so that you're feeling brain fit and not brain fogged. So I'm going to share with you 5 different ways to do this. And in my natural style, it's going to be very, very practical. So when we come back, we're going to look at boosting your resilience in order to really get to the end of the year with a lot of gutsiness and grit and make this last part of the year very, very enjoyable. So I promised you 5 ways to boost your resilience until the end of the year, very practical ways. So work with me here. Put up your left hand and we're going to actually use your 4 fingers and your thumb as a mnemonic for your brain, because I would imagine if you, like many of the people I'm speaking to, your brain is feeling overwhelmed, okay? So the left hand up, and the first little pinky that we're going to talk about, wait for it, is bed. So that is your pinky promise to yourself. So why are we talking about bed? We're talking about bed because of sleep. Do you know, when my parents were growing up and they were born in the 40s and the 50s, they were sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night. Fast forward to where we are now, 2022, and wait for it, 2 out of 3 adults are having problems with sleep, either falling asleep or staying asleep, or just not waking up feeling refreshed, always feeling like they need more sleep. So this pinky promise to yourself is what are we going to do differently to really make friends with the sleep hygiene and your bed? So I'll quickly share 2 tips with you. What are those 2 tips? The first is actually to be mindful around having a daily digital detox. That means switching off your phone, your TV, and your laptop for at least 60 minutes before you go to bed. So I do it for 90 minutes. So I'm saying baby steps here, 60 minutes before you go to bed. Switch off those devices so that you do not get that blue light into your eyes, which affects the production of melatonin, your sleep hormone. So that was tip number 1. Tip number 2, actually this is when I started studying sleep and sleep hygiene and the neuroscience of sleep, is I found it quite difficult at the end of the day to kind of stop fiddling around and researching and reading and, even looking at food for the next day and just kind of titivating around my house, tidying things up and, I don't know, just wasting time. So I now, well, when I started researching sleep, I don't do it now, is I set my mobile alarm to go off for between 60 and 90 minutes before I want to put my head on my pillow. So look at your sleep routine at night and actually use your alarm to get you to bed on time, not just to wake you up in the morning. So that is the 2 tips for bed and better sleep, restorative sleep. Now let's get on to the ring finger. So the ring finger is all about commitment. If you think about your body is designed to move. And actually, when we lived in the veldt and we were running away from those lions and towards those hedgehogs, we were walking about 12 to 18 kilometers per day. And now we are sometimes sitting behind our laptop for 12 to 18 hours per day. I kid you not, I work with people who are working those hours. So sitting is the new smoking. What are we going to do about getting O for oxygen to your brain? So we've had the B, now we've got the O for fresh oxygen to your brain. Your brain thrives on fresh oxygenated blood. So what are the tips here for movement? The tips here are, I'm not talking to you people who run in the morning or cycle or go to gym or swim or whatever. You guys have got it sussed. I'm talking to those of you who do not like exercise. No time for exercise. I'm going to suggest to you to get oxygen to your brain that you do macro movements. So here is a very simple and practical suggestion. If you're the person who likes to have umpteen cups of tea or coffee during the day, every time you put that kettle on, what about doing 10 squats while that kettle is boiling? If you're the person that likes to go to the fridge and have water, hopefully, and not carbonated soft drinks, or even, your beer at night, or pour yourself a lovely whiskey or a glass of wine, do some exercise beforehand. So, it could be a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, but if you're doing that 8 or 10 times a day, you are going to accumulate 30 minutes of elevated heart rate. And that's all we need, 30 minutes of elevated heart rate. You don't need it 7 days a week. You need minimum, the World Health Organization says, you need about 150 minutes a week. But I'm saying to you, incorporate those mini macro movements into every single day of the week. Okay, so we've done bed, we've done oxygen to the brain. We are now going to do the opposite of the middle finger. And the opposite of the middle finger is all around emotional intelligence. And for the sake of making my acronym BOOST work, I've called it Open Your Heart. So why emotional intelligence? Well, here's the stat, is that if you have boosted your emotional intelligence, you are probably going to be 4 times more successful than the person who just has good IQ, intellectual quotient. So if we start to really understand our emotions and be curious about other people's emotions, we will start to interrelate with others more effectively. So your relationships at work, your relationships at home, your relationships with your friends improve dramatically with boosting your emotional intelligence. So a little fun fact here is that, again, back to this little organ between your ears, is that 80% of this brain is the limbic system. So actually you think you are logical, you clear decision making, you're kind of clinical about what you do. Yes, that's a portion of your prefrontal cortex, this front part of your brain, the executive functioning, but that is driven by emotions. So let's not forget this phrase, emotions drive people. And then, of course, people drive performance. So a little tip on emotional intelligence. What could you do? Start to really take stock of what emotions you're feeling. And no emotions are bad. Now, you could be feeling really quite angry, and that anger could drive you to start a new business, negotiate a pay rise, be clear about boundaries with friends. So notice your emotions, and the phrase we like to use is name it to tame it. And if I had to slide your body into a functional MRI tube, and I showed you videos of exciting events and maybe beautiful, fantastic musicals or horrendous car accidents, different parts of your brain would light up. And it doesn't matter which different parts light up, but it does matter that you can name the emotions that are surging and surfacing for you as you watch these different scenes. So encourage that in your family. Name your emotions, even if it's a washing machine. So you could be feeling frustrated, excited, nervous, anxious, kind of apprehensive. All of those emotions can live together. The good ones, the seemingly not so good ones, and you can actually deal with them when you can name them. So what have we done? We've done bed, we've done oxygen to the brain, we've done open your heart, and now we're going to do this index finger, which when I was growing up was shh, Joni, adult time now. But I like to also look at this as a kind of a stop sugar. So why is that important to boost your resilience? Because sugar affects the brain. Sugar affects your clear thinking, your decision making. And at this time of the year when there's a lot of tasks still to do, projects, etc., and not enough time, you need to be thinking about what are those priorities so that you are not overwhelmed. Sugar is the enemy. And I know I'm quite vicious about this, but just think about it, even from your immune system's perspective, is that 75 grams of sugar, so there's about 4 grams per teaspoon, depletes your immune system and weakens your immune system for up to 5 hours. What does that mean? You've just had 2 sodas, so 2 carbonated soft drinks full of sugar, and you go out and you do your grocery shopping, you're handling those trolleys full of germs, etc. You wipe your nose, you get in the car, and you've got flu. Never mind Omicron, etc., etc. So please think about sugar. Sugar drives all sorts of inflammation in the body, so called diabetes we all know about, but heart disease as well, and different forms of cancer, and of course this diabetes 3 in our brain, which we are calling Alzheimer's and dementia. So stop that sugar. Now let's get on to the 5th and the final way to boost your resilience. And that's the thumbs up, okay? That's a whole lot of fun, and that is really around making time for fun. Now, there's no suggestions here on what you should be doing, because this is your individuality. What is time for you, fun for you will not be fun for other people. So some suggestions of what you could do is look at that diary. I've looked at my diary for this weekend and thought some of the time for fun for me is to have a reboot retreat in my own home. So I'm going to buy really healthy foods. I'm going to have beautiful music playing. I'm going to sit in the garden. I'm going to be designing some programs on resilience and sleep. But I'm going to have a socially detoxed weekend and just look at that reboot. So find things that are fun for you. Playing music, maybe it is socializing. Maybe it is having a 3-day weekend just to reboot before the end of the year. So we're going to come back after the break, and I'll be chatting to Nico about how do we implement this and what do we do to make sure that these 5 ways to boost yourself are sustainable behavior change for you.
Get feedback. Let's talk about the story you listen to improve. Now, it's really important to listen to your customers. We've previously spoken about testimonials, and those are fantastic, but what you really want to be able to improve is to get good, tangible feedback. Get feedback about your product or service. How people feel about it, did people enjoy it, how did people engage with it? You want to know everything about your product, including the packaging and how you deliver it and what you can change about that. You want to get feedback on the engagement with your customers. Do people like working with you? Do people think you're a great service provider? Do people like talking to you when they come to your business or calling you, and whoever's on the other side of the phone, do they give them a great experience? And finally, you want to talk about the ease of delivery. So you might have a great product and people might really like working with you, but it might be a bit difficult getting a hold of your product. So how do you improve those particular things? Getting those key feedback from your customers can help you figure out how to improve your product, the experience, or your delivery. If you're clear on how to improve those things and really take good feedback to improve, that gives you more customers and allows you to get more efficient in your business, but also grow in your business. So if you don't have good feedback, go ask some people. Make a list of who's used your product, who's constantly come back, and who hasn't come back. Go back and ask all of those people how they feel about those 3 points. Get your feedback and get growing.
You're watching HybriCON 2022, and it's fabulous. That was Joni Peddie talking about ways to boost your resilience. Wow, Joni, thank you so much. It was really lovely, and I have known your material for quite some time now, for some years, but I hear something new every time. So I'm very keen to explore some of these things around boost. And for the first time round, you started with a pinky, and I really I love that, because
it's your pinky promise to yourself.
It's a promise. It's a promise. Okay, so let's start right there with B. What do we do? What are hints and tips that we can execute on?
The reason I like to start with B is
The promise.
the promise.
Because I decided here immediately that I'm going to make a promise to do what we're discussing tonight.
Exactly.
You can watch this.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
So the promise is that actually, oopsie, I'm losing my funness here, is that, Nico, your entire physiology, so your body, your emotions, your mental clarity is all dependent on sleep. So if you're not going to pinky promise that you are going to get minimum 7 hours of sleep a night, the physiology goes out of whack. The hormones go out of whack. You will eat the wrong stuff. I mean, this ecosystem is dependent on minimum 7 hours.
Yeah.
And no one can say to me, hey, Joni, I'm a night owl and I only get 5 hours and I actually thrive on 5 hours. Your brain does not. And you're holding my brain close to you there.
I'm holding the brain.
My second brain, that is.
I love the half a brain. It's a good one. I mean, on sleep, I have obviously been monitoring for some time. We've been talking about this. And I have been monitoring my sleep. And even now with HybriCON, while we're working really hard in strange hours, I can see the difference of what a 3 or 4 hour sleep does the next day. It's devastating. So I'm there with a pinky promise, and I think that part I really have. But I mean, if somebody's just beginning to be aware of this now and going, what are the things that we've seen that people don't do, or how it plays out if you don't sleep? So give us some things that somebody should be aware of right now.
So how it plays out is it is inextricably linked to cancer. So the big research studies, Nico, the macro ones, are looking at people who are working late nights, you know, even nurses, you know, call center agents, etc. It is inextricably linked to cancer and to dementia and Alzheimer's. So, you know, that research, and we're not talking about dementia in 85-year-olds, we're talking about dementia in 50-year-olds.
Sure.
So it's a real big,
reality.
excuse the pun, it's a wake-up call. So that's the threat. What can people do was the other part of your question, is you actually need to say, what are the few things that I can change? Because it's quite difficult to get your sleep hygiene right. The first thing is that I find people are really not doing is stopping caffeine early in the day. Caffeine has an 8-hour half-life in your body. What does that mean? Is that you'll have a cup of coffee at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 10 o'clock tonight, it is still going
there.
through your blood system. So you may fall asleep and you may go, Joni, actually even after dinner at night I can have
But
a
it
cup
is
of coffee.
still operational in your body.
It's operational. And there's 4 stages of sleep. So the sleep science is really beautiful. First 2 stages, quite light sleep, hear a dog bark, you wake up, or, you know, hoot to go. Stage 3 and stage 4, the brain that you're holding there, Nico, it's got to actually flush out. That's it. It's got a whole kind of sewage wastage system in there. Flush out toxins. So if you're not going to get that deep stage 3 and stage 4 sleep, your brain is not going to reboot overnight. It's designed to reboot. So coffee, actually that could just be a small step in the right direction. No coffee for 8 hours before bed.
Good.
Or tea or green tea.
Excellent. 2 tips that I have here, because I've been doing this myself as well, is number 1, we have very, very strong cappuccino, and actually it makes my tongue all, so by 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I don't want to have any more coffee.
Oh, good.
So that was one thing. And then of course I employed a sleep app. So that I can time it. Very simple. It's on your iPhone. You click it on. It plays rainy noise, makes you sleep in 20 minutes or so. I'm out, and the next day you can measure. So by measuring, that was a good place for me to start.
Yes. Actually, I'm going to name my sleep app because it's free. So the one that I use is called Sleep Cycle. It's a little orange icon. It looks like an old-fashioned clock. And it was quite interesting. About 2 days ago, it summarized the last 1,045 days for me.
Wow.
So on average, I have been getting 7 hours and 15 minutes sleep on average over the last over 1,000 days. And it also looks at quality sleep as well.
Beautiful.
So it's not 100% accurate, but even if it's 70 to 80% accurate, it builds your awareness. So you start to track it. But your point is a lovely point, Nico, is that rain sound, that etc., those are mnemonic cues to the brain to go like,
beautiful,
moment. Like the day has ended. And I often say to people, you know, this is like an engine of a Boeing. You know, we expect a Boeing or an Airbus to land on a very short runway. It cannot. So you've got to have that time to unwind, a long runway. And then maybe if you start to link these beautiful sounds like rain and water, it's very therapeutic.
It is. Now we're going to move onto oxygen, which was the O.
Yes.
I concentrated.
Yeah,
I was there.
good.
The one thing I didn't concentrate, I'm going to ask Mary to just to give me a sense of timing, because we're just talking and I don't have my clock with me. I did forget that one. But I want to talk about, it's great to do this exercise. So what is it, like a set of 10, a set of 15, 20 that you just do?
Exactly. So I've got a little mnemonic device in my head, is that when I go to the loo, and I know this is pretty kind of practical, down to earth, but you know what, you always do a routine after that. You flush the loo, you wash your hands, and you're done, okay? However, if you tag on 20 squats onto that, so you've just washed your hands, and then it's going to take you a few seconds, 20 squats. You go to the loo 8 times a day, that's 160 squats. You're going to have a very peachy bum before Christmas.
You just don't want to be caught in the loop doing that stuff. I mean, that's
exactly.
but that's a tip. Okay, another exercise. Give us another
exercise. I just find doing plank. I know it's not everybody's favorite.
Okay.
Plank is the one where you kind of ground yourself on this part of your arm, and then you stretch your legs out behind you.
Gosh. Okay.
So if I'm having like a tricky time during the day where I just go like, I just need to give my brain a breather. You know that feeling where we often go to the fridge to see what we can eat to give our brain a breather? No. Drop to your office floor, your bedroom floor, your lounge floor, and it is flipping difficult to do. And we all have our own number of seconds, but that mini micro movement, at the moment I'm noticing if I push it, I can get to 45 seconds.
Wow.
So, but I mean, start at 10 seconds. It's like a windscreen wiper for your brain. It just gets all the muck out of your brain, and because you cannot think of anything else. That's oxygen to your brain.
Okay, I'm going to look for a place around the office where nobody has to see me suffer, and I will try the plank. I commit to it.
It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
We're busy committing to some things we're going to do so that we can get to boost our resilience, and that's with Joni Peddie. We're going to be back after the break to talk about more.
So if you're perhaps waking up feeling a little tired, a little gritty, a little kind of moody, maybe you're not sleeping well. Sleep is your superpower. Eat, drink, movement, and other lifestyle habits. We talk about quantity of sleep, and we should be getting a certain number of hours, but really that's only half the story. We want that deep, slow wave sleep that makes you feel fantastic the next day. It's all about energy, va-va-vum. How do you work? How do you self-lead? How do you live your life vastly differently if you make sleep your superpower? On this course, you're going to learn about food. What should we eat? What is really going to enhance your sleep or detract from a good night's sleep? You're going to learn about alcohol. How does that affect your sleep? And then movement. How much movement during the day? What does that do for you? And how does it really enhance deep quality restorative sleep? So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to press on the button below, have some fun, and see what tiny little things you can integrate into your life. They're quick, they're easy, they're seamless, they take no time at all. But if you start to think about what you're doing and how you're doing it vastly differently, you too will have more energy on a daily basis. Sleep is your superpower. Eat, drink, movement, and other lifestyle habits. Your habits today inform your biology tomorrow.
You're watching HybriCON 2022. I'm Nico Steyn, and I am here with half of Joni Peddie's brain. Joni has just done the talk about how to reboot or boost your resilience.
Yes.
And it was really nice, and I'm remembering the acronyms. We got to the second O, which is to open your heart.
That's it.
I think particularly in this time, it's really something critical that people need to start doing, right? Where do we start? By just being aware. How do we dial into how we feel?
It is difficult. You know, most people are, if you ask them, how do you dial into how you feel? What words do you use to name your emotions? Most people are using 3 words. I'm happy, I'm sad, or I'm mad.
Oh, mine has an F in it too.
Yeah, exactly. So how do you do it? You really have to, I mean, this is interesting to me, Nico. You have to improve your emotional literacy. You have to just learn more words. It's as simple as that. So actually, if you go to, this is a really good idea, and I've done it. You go to Google, good old Google, and type in Plutchick, Plutchick, ClitCheck model, it will give you 32 emotional words in this beautiful petaled diagram.
Have the image, yes.
So
and it is just because
learn
there's so many words between even just angry and frustrated.
That's it. So if you're going to, there's two parts to the story really. It's learning more words, so improving your literacy. And the second part is how can you dial up and dial down. So, you know, if you are feeling kind of serene and calm and just can't get that enthusiasm going, maybe you want to dial up to joy, you know, and ecstasy and that kind of thing. So if you look at that model, it's going to give you the kind of variations of the emotions, dialing up and dialing down. And I say to my children, as an example, they're 22 and 24, I say, you're in a rage, really? You're in an absolute rage about that. Well, is it worth being in a rage? You know, it's not. It's kind of one meeting, one piece of bad feedback. It's not the end of the world. So maybe it's irritation, or you won't recognize it. So a rage, we sometimes get hooked into words that are inappropriate for the emotion.
And I think, I mean, I've also just noticed, particularly at the moment, I think because we're all sort of wearing a little bit thin, I guess, on the road, it's, you know, I have to really hold myself back from road rage because people are just so inconsiderate and just so selfish on the road. And I guess whenever that happens, I try and come up with something fun and something funny to say, just to but I do think it's important to register it and recognize that you're 100%. Angry or frustrated 100%. Because you can't just make it go away. 100%. It has to be dealt with. Okay.
So you can't suppress it. You know, a lot of this brain is emotionally, it's the limbic system. There's the brain with Nico. Nico, the phrase we use is name it to tame it. So don't try and ignore it, just name it to tame it and then let it go. So I will often reframe the terrible driving on the road with like, hey, you know, we live in Johannesburg, like full of taxis, and actually I make fun out of it, and I think, you know, they're swerving and stopping and whatever, and actually if I want to do that, I'm going to do that too. So it's kind of like this is permission to have fun. Of course you're not going to do it, but it's not letting those trivial things irritate you.
Deal with the important stuff. Okay, now let's go to the S1, and I have been really aware of this stuff for some time now that we've been talking, and sugar is of course everywhere, right? I mean, how do you avoid that stuff?
You've got to read those labels. I mean, your mum and dad and my mum and dad did not have sugar in their peanut butter or in their salad dressings or in bread or in anything else like that. So it's a matter of picking up those bottles in store, and there are 70 different names for sugar. So we're not going to know all of those names. But if it looks like maltodextrin and, you know, sucrose, it doesn't matter. It's not going to be the first 3 ingredients on that ingredient list. It's going to be way down the bottom.
Hidden. But, you know, it's, and as I said, I mean, condiments and stuff. I mean, I'm going, Mrs. Balls, what are you doing to me? I love that stuff. And you have to, you know.
And you know what? That's okay. So yes, I've been dramatic in the boost, you know, stop that sugar. But actually, you're not, Mrs. Balls is not the meal.
And it's again moderation, being aware of it.
And being aware and saying, actually, I want a tablespoon. In South Africa, we have lovely dinners like babuti and boerewors and that kind of thing. I mean, you just can't eat that without Mrs. Balls. But it's a tablespoon with that. It's not the main meal. The problem is when we are having, you know, having a meal and then a huge dessert after a meal as well.
So much
and
sugar,
you're having a carbonated
and
soft
no
drink.
plank.
And no plank.
Afterwards.
So
that may be something to go, listen, it's a trade-off. If you're going to do this, then go and walk in the park or something. I mean, I think it's just to create that.
There's 2 tricks there. You just mentioned one of the tricks, so well done. If you're going to have a sugar meal and even lots of carbohydrates, here are 2 tricks. Nico's just mentioned one. The first trick actually is to start off with a salad. So line your tummy with something fresh.
Good,
And the second trick is actually to go for a walk after a big meal.
Just to dial in, just to do that.
Exactly.
Okay. And then, so time for tea was fun. I just remembered fun. I was standing there going, tea and fun. Fun.
Time for,
It is definitely that idea, just to break away from it again. And, you know, like I sometimes do threaten that I'm going to sit under a tree, but I don't actually get there always. But it is an important part.
But it's the macro things. So what I've done for Time for Fun now is I said to my daughters I'd like a little speaker set for the bathroom. So I put that on and I play my favorite music. It's got to be on 10, volume 10. I sing, I'm tone deaf. My children say, close the bathroom windows, the neighbors, and I go, I bag of the neighbors. But that actually changes state. It does. How long is that part of my day? That's 3 minutes, 4 minutes while I shower and brush my teeth, etc. So the macro moments of time for fun. It's not going to sit under a tree and do a relaxation. It's like, how do I find those fun moments? And who are your fun friends? You, my fun friend. Like if I'm feeling really miserable, I phone my fun friend.
And we laugh a lot.
And we laugh a lot, and we can tease each other about stuff. And I loop that back to open your heart. Because if you think of this smiley face, so it's not quite smiley at the moment, but there it is, smiley, is exercising optimism and actually seeing the brighter side of life has a huge impact on your brain, a huge impact on your emotional intelligence.
Certainly vibration.
So you've got to find those little moments and macro moments, good friends, your music, stuff that you do for yourself. I try and laugh at myself a lot as well. And I talk to myself sometimes. I go like, oh, goodness, if people could see me doing this, they'll really laugh out loud.
The conversations I have, I tell
Exactly.
you. Now, Joni, you're going to be teaching a lot of this stuff as well, and there's some workshops coming. Tell us where we're going to get some of this information and what you're going to teach in those sessions.
Okay, so I can't remember. You will have to look on the My Big Smart Up website. I'll be doing master classes, and I think I'm doing a workshop on resilience. Yes. And then what I do have for you also is a really nice poster on Boost, which I'm finding that people just print out, put on their fridge, and they go, okay, as a family, do bed, oxygen to the brain, open your heart, stop sugar, and time for fun, as a visual reminder. We are visual beings.
Yeah.
So if we see it on that fridge before you open it up, hopefully that fridge is full of fruit and veggies and not full of, Cokes and cakes.
Good. So we're actually going to put that on Joni's landing page. So look for the Boost button and see what you find there. So Joni, thank you so much. I make a promise, a pinky promise. I'm there. And I'm going to do some of this stuff. Thank you very much. And
plank. I'm going to walk into studio and
I'm not so
see
sure
you doing
about
plank.
the plank. I'm not so sure about that one. Thanks for joining us.
Great,
Excellent.
Nico.
Thank you. Have a really great evening, and do go check out on the website. There's a lot more to come. Thanks for watching.
Something is broken in the way that you are listening, and something is glitching in the way that you speak. Everything is getting lost in translation, and it is time to sort it out once and for all. If you would like to learn a new way of communicating that can instantly transform all of the relationships in your life, then get yourself a copy of my book, That's Not What I Meant, The Smart Savvy Guide to Real Communication. In this book, I unveil the 4 different communication systems and how different they all are. You're going to do a test in the book to determine what your system is, and then I unveil the details and the specifics about how communication needs to shift for each of these 4 systems. If you can learn which communication system your family, your friends, your partner, and your colleagues come from, it will allow you to shift your communication and speak in a way that they can really hear you. Knowing your system allows you to teach everybody in your life how to speak to you in a way so that you can finally understand where they are coming from. The health of any relationship is determined by the quality of the communication happening in that relationship. If you want healthier relationships, you need to get better communication skills. So get yourself a copy of That's Not What I Meant, The Smart Savvy Guide to Real Communication, which is available in all bookshops in South Africa, and on Amazon you can find the Kindle version.
Hi, I'm Stanley Beckett from Change Creator, and thank you for joining me on this most important talk. It could be the one talk that changes all the results for you going forward. At Change Creator, we believe in measuring, and we believe in three of the most important things, which is self-measurement, self-care, self-regulation. And today we are going to share with you why these three things are probably the reason you're not achieving the results you want in your life. And I'm looking forward to sharing that with you as we move into the understanding of how do we bridge what we call this knowing-doing gap. Right, so let us start in the beginning. What is it that we all have in common, that we all want? And that is that we want to change the results in our lives, whatever that